Hey, welcome to Mineral Talks Live, the weekly live webinar that brings you in-depth and in-person interviews with the mineral people from around the world. Mineral Talks Live is brought to you by a joint effort among the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, and Blue Cap Productions. Tune in every Wednesday and stay connected to your mineral world. Now, broadcasting live from beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, the land of aloha, ukuleles, and shakas, this is Mineral Talks Live. Hello and welcome to another episode of Mineral Talks Live. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Brian Swoboda, president of Blue Cap Productions, and we have got an excellent show for you today. For those of you who are tuning into our program for the first time, Mineral Talks Live is a weekly webinar put on by myself representing Blue Cap Productions, Dr. Raquel Alonso Perez representing the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, and Dr. Eloise Gaillou representing the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, also known as the SMMP. Now, this program came about as a result of a conversation Raquel, Eloise, and I had not too long ago. We were talking about COVID-19 and the effects it was having on our community. We knew that many of us were feeling a deep sense of isolation, especially in light of some of the mineral shows being canceled, and we felt, well, maybe we needed to do something about it. We thought that if we could pool our resources, we might be able to generate some interest in people watching a series of broadcasts featuring mineral people just talking and sharing stories. Raquel and Eloise wanted to do it live, and after a little bit of convincing, I agreed, and that was the start of Mineral Talks Live. By combining our efforts and contacts, Raquel, Eloise, and I knew that we'd be presenting a show with a true international feel, just like our mineral shows. And with me broadcasting from Honolulu, Hawaii, Raquel broadcasting from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Eloise from various locations in France, our international guest list would reflect our own background. Now, these guests will include people from all walks of the mineral community, and even some of the related worlds like our guest today. Throughout the program, I'll be the freshly shaven face conducting the interviews, while Raquel and Eloise will be the geniuses doing the serious behind-the-scenes work that really makes the show possible. And you, as the viewer, we want to invite you to be part of the show and participate via the chat and the Q&A windows located at the bottom of your screen. The chat features allows you to type messages to everyone watching and participating in the show. If you do nothing else, at least say hi to everyone when you sign in and tell us where you're from. Now, during the interview, our guests and I will be focused on conversations and not looking at the chat window. However, both Raquel and Eloise will be very active in those chats, so look for their comments along with everyone else's. At times, either Raquel or Eloise may interject during the interview with questions that you're asking, so there's a certain interactivity element to these programs. So again, we invite you to get involved. The Q&A function allows you to get involved by submitting several questions that we'll try to answer at the end of the interview. And finally, at about 40 minutes into the program, you may see a window pop up on the screen asking a bunch of questions about our weekly poll. This is just a bit of fun where you can try to predict how our guests will answer these 10 questions I'll ask at the end of the show. It's fun, and you'll get to know our guests a little bit better. At the end of this, we usually have some kind of prize that we'd like to give away, so all viewers stay tuned until the very end if you can. But first, let's take a quick look at who's online right now. Eloise, Raquel, who's visiting with us?
Hello to everyone.
There's Patrick. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm fine, very good.
Terrific.
Very
As many
excited.
of you know, because you've signed in, Patrick Dreher from Idar-Oberstein. He is our guest of the day. And he is broadcasting live. For those of you who don't know Patrick, Patrick is the 5th generation Master Carver of hard stone animals. And this goes back to the time of Carl Faberge. And Eloise and Raquel, if you could cut to my screen for a quick second, I want to show some pieces that Patrick has done.
You're on, Brian.
Okay, there we go. So this is a jasper toad that was carved, I believe, by Patrick's father. This is a rooster, and these are all just incredibly detailed, as you can see there. I mean, all the little intricacies of the feathers. This is from the Larson collection. It's a tourmaline toad, absolutely incredible. makes you want to reach out and touch these things. And this is a citrine hippo with a light dance in it. That this piece really kind of reflects Patrick's contribution to everything that the House of Dreher has done. So Patrick, with that in mind, people kind of pretty much start to get a sense of the work that you and your family have produced. There are kind of two numbers out there when we talk about your past. There's the 5 generations of Master Carvers, and then there's the ability for you to track your ancestry back 13 generations in Idar-Oberstein. Can you explain the difference between the two and why sometimes we talk about the 13 and sometimes we talk about the 5 generations?
Sure, I can talk about it. First of all, my family is located in a city. It's called Idar-Oberstein. It's in Germany. And the city had a very, very old tradition working with gemstone. It goes back more than 500 years. My family relatives belong, as they call it, as pioneers of the city. So in the beginning, here was a mine, an agate mine and jasper mine, which they found stones. And they cut the stones in water mills and use the craft of the water to cut this agates and jaspers. My family relatives learned this profession of agate cutters, which was very famous here. So the 13th generation means, in general, it goes back to 13 generations. When we split it, the first 8 generations was this agate cutters. Then this relative decided he wanted to do anything new. Around 1870, there was people studying in Paris the profession of gemstone carving. And after the war, which was 1870, 71, the people settled up in Idar-Oberstein and built up a community of gemstone carvers here. So my great-great-great-grandfather, the first, he learned this profession and started the new profession in the family of Dreher. And this, I'm now the 5th generation in this line, and the 13th in the line of the agate cutters.
Fantastic. Now, one of the huge claims to fame for the House of Dreher is the time that you guys started working for the House of Faberge in Moscow. Unravel that a little bit so that people understand kind of the background of the hard stone carving.
I need to correct you a little bit. Faberge was in St. Petersburg, not in Moscow.
Oh, yes, thank you.
That's no problem. Let me talk about Faberge themselves. He was, most people know it, a famous jeweler, which was a Tsarist jeweler. He gets very famous to produce his eggs, imperial eggs, which other people know. By side, he was a big collector of Netsukes from Japan. And he gets the idea to start to make small animal carvings as collectibles or gifts for the Tsar. So his problem was that he has the idea and the models, which he can do in St. Petersburg, but he had no gemstone carver in St. Petersburg. As a young guy, Faberge studied in Frankfurt, which is around 100 kilometers close to Idar-Oberstein. He know from our area and know about the quality of the artists. So he had very good contacts to a company called Stern and another company called Wolf. So he contacted them and sent models, which he did in St. Petersburg, to these families, and these families give it to this time best carvers. And that was one of my great-grandfathers, was one of this guy. So he was the first who copy models for Faberge, which later get sold under the brand of Faberge worldwide.
And the method by which he would instruct the local artisans like your ancestors was that they would create plaster models in St. Petersburg and send them out. And I know that you have one of those there in your showroom. If you can please take the camera over there and share it with our guests, I think I always get like chicken skin every time I see it, and when you're kind enough to let me hold it, which still blows my mind that you let me do that. So maybe we can take a look at that plaster toad.
Let me put some pieces by side. That is an original Faberge model, which is
right there.
dated to around 1880 as the years. The Faberge Museum in St. Petersburg, Mikhail Ashinikov's the director, he make a lot of research about this toad, and all the experts, they confirm its original toad. And they also find out where it comes from, which idea it gets from. And yeah, it's one of the only plaster model which still exists. I know that in our museum in Oberstein is one hippo, and that is all which still alive from this time.
Now, have the researchers explained why it says made in China on the bottom of the foot?
You can look, there's no China on the bottom, look.
Oh, okay, you can scrape that off.
You're so mean, Brian. Patrick, we have a question. Were the frogs the Tsar's favorite animal carvings?
In general, it was a favorite carving of my father because he really loves the toads. And he always say it's he want to do an animal which not so popular, which not so nice like a horse or a rabbit, anything. And he always says that with the toads, he can give them a human touch. Let me show you the toads, which Brian shows on the video. You see, it's called the hand-up toads. It's a toad my father made in 1888. It's how to say, it's a small brother of this one from design, very similar. But I would say a new interpretation for my father.
Now, Patrick, maybe you could bring that toad that's in the back up to the front. Yeah.
I'm on the way. And you see here very nice this human expression, what I told with my father always want to do. Look at this grumpy one.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. He looks very grumpy.
I think that is one of the most incredible things about the Dreher work, that you can look at an amphibian, a toad, and you can see a human expression. We all look at that, and Raquel, even you said, you agreed that he looks grumpy. For us to look at a reptile, like, I guess it's an amphibian, to look at an animal like this and see human elements, and I don't know if your camera can show this, but go into the fingernails there on the toad.
You see it?
It's hard to see, but
it's hard to see.
Even the fingernails, it looks like human fingers, and to me, that's one of the incredible things about these pieces. Just the ability to recognize human expressions and emotions in animals such as this.
One very important thing at our carvings, it's not only nice to look them, it's only nice to feel them. That is bad at Zoom that I cannot give you the taste how they feel.
Well, that's the next version of Zoom that's coming out, I think.
Okay, we really like that people take the carvings in the hand, feel them. They have a very special feeling.
Patrick, we have a question. Yes. Do the eyes, are they made out of glass?
No, it's a bicolored agate with a black layer and a nice light brown or gray agate layer. And the pupil gets a black, and the body of the eye gets a brownish or gray. Then we carve them hollow from behind and fill them up with a gold foil. You see it maybe here better.
That's amazing. They really look like glass.
Yeah,
so
most other carvings
even that sparkle and that color in it.
Use glass, but we don't. We use agates.
Peter is asking, where is the multicolor jasper from?
It's from India. Both pieces are from India. Old stock, which my father bought in 1980. Today, not available in this quality. Special this one, this yellow is now very rare.
Patrick, maybe you can show us some other pieces, some completed pieces that you have there on this one.
Let's start a little bit in the history, what my father and my grandfather start. It's called the composed work. So that means they use different gemstone in different colors and mount them together to get the different colors of a bird. In this time, before 1980, was the bird very popular. Here's, for example, the kingfisher. Here's a flying duck. And in around 1980, better tools coming up and also better gemstone coming up. And so my father decided going away from those compound pieces and built or carved pieces from one gemstone, like the bulldog here.
And by better tools, you mean that at that point, that was the diamond tools, and before that, it was just what, carbide?
We call it carborundum tools.
Carborundum, okay, yeah.
Here's a very nice step-by-step. It's a rough stone, rough preformed, half finish, and the finish mouse. And also with these tools, it was possible to make these breakthroughs between the tail and also the feet you see here. That was with the big carborundum tools before 1980 not possible. And so that is what my father really specialed on. And when I was apprenticing and start learning under him as a master, it was 1988, I learned completely this technique. He introduced me to this old style technique, but I never, did it.
Okay.
So also a very, very old technique before the people colored agate. They heat up agate, and agate, when they heat it up, they change the color. That is the rooster from the beginning. And so it's a heated rooster. So he changed the color. And you get color combinations which you not normally get in the nature. The same with this nice flower. And one of my favorite pieces is a fairy tale fish.
Fantastic.
It's also one piece, and you see it's hollow completely, and you get amazing color play.
Now, Patrick, beyond just having the mastery of carving, you guys also have to, let's look at that for a second. That's one that your father did.
Yeah, I think that is the best what my father did in his whole lifetime. It's in our private collection. It was a present to my mom. It's an agate from Brazil. It's a foal, a young horse. And if you look close, you'll see how he carved each muscle. And he make a lot of research about how the animals run, how the muscles move when he runs. And you see these plants, the plants have the reason to protect the thin legs, otherwise the legs would break.
It's very similar to the differences between Greek sculptures and Roman sculptures. Greeks, you always see them with the broken ankles because it just couldn't support the weight. And when the Romans started copying that, you always see these statues leaning on something like you see here, which adds strength to the overall statue.
Exactly.
Now, Patrick, beyond just the carving, you guys are incredible. And maybe we can switch back to my camera for a second. I want to show a piece that I think originally you had carved for Brice Goban. And this is now in the Gail and Jim Spann collection. And this is a starfish of fluoride. But the interesting thing is you kept some of the really neat features of the mineral in that. And I know that you do that a lot with the other pieces that you carve. So you have to carefully examine a piece and know where you want the color transitions and everything. So talk to us about how long you have to sit there and study a piece before you can start making the first cut.
You know, Brian, that is a very good question. Sometimes you have the idea immediately. Sometimes it needs weeks or months even to get the right idea. most important, which my family take care, is that we save as much as possible from the gemstone, especially with the starfish of this bicolored topaz. It had this unusual fluoride inclusions. And as Breeze told me, that only 3 pieces in the world get found with this inclusion. So I see the order to save these minerals for the world. So I make the design to keep this fluoride inclusion still alive and use a reddish orange color for the starfish and the nice blue as a bottom. And interesting is that the front side of this blue mineral was the original outside skin. So I did not carve it, I leave it as it is. So in general, at each mineral, if it is expensive or unusual, we try to save as much as possible and makes the design to, how to say, to highlight the better parts of the mineral and cut away the dirty parts and the parts which are not looking nice.
Now, Patrick, there has to be a lot of research that you do behind every animal that you create because it is so lifelike. Talk to us about the research that you do when you're creating a new piece.
The research about animals takes really a long time. We have a very good library about almost each animal books which are coming to the market. So my father bought each books that you can get. We often go to the zoo and study animal in the zoo. Funny things like the toad, for example, or the mouse. We catch them in a live trap in the garden and study them, taking our photos, and then let her run again in the garden. So a funny story is when I was in the apprenticeship time, I get the order to make a snail. And I catch one in the garden, and before I let her run, I mark her house with a waterproof pen. And years later, when I cut the grass in the garden, I found exactly this snail again in the garden with a cross on the house. That's fun.
So they come and they find you, the animals do.
But it is real. You need to study a lot the animals, especially if it's unusual animals.
It looked like we might have a drop off right there. In I don't know, Patrick, if you can still hear me. Okay,
No,
it looked like we might have
me as
lost.
well.
I'm sorry, say that again, Eloise.
It's frozen as well for me, so it's not only from you.
Okay, all right. So it looks like we lost Patrick there for a little bit. Hopefully he'll come back. One of the real big treats, if you ever happen to be in the area, now Idar-Oberstein, it's about an hour and a half outside of Frankfurt. So if you ever get the chance to contact Patrick and when you're in Europe, either for maybe the Munich show or the St. Marie show, he's an incredible, gracious host, and he'd love to show you around Idar-Oberstein. It's a real treat there. So I don't know, did we lose him? Is he trying to log back in?
I
Yeah, we
believe
lost
he's,
him.
yes. I think he's gonna try to reconnect just for so the audience know the idea is that he's gonna show now his working area. So don't leave us yet, because the most interesting about how he carves and where he does it is about to come, right?
Yeah, we're gonna. So the workshop where he works is in the basement of his parents' house, and so where we were just now, we were in the living room, and that's where they have the glass exhibit where he was showing us a bunch of those pieces that were on display, and then we're gonna go downstairs and we're gonna go into the workroom and we're gonna see what he's been working on lately. So I hear a ding dong. Maybe that's Patrick coming back to us.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I get kicked out
Well,
Because it's time to go to your workshop.
No, I'm finished for today, believe me.
well, Patrick, I mean, ideally, I'd want to ask you how you guys there are doing with COVID-19 and how it's affected you. I know personally, because if it wasn't for COVID-19, today's Wednesday. On Saturday, you would be here in Honolulu for your 50th birthday. Unfortunately, we're going to have to try to do that next year. But why don't you walk us downstairs to your showroom, or not your showroom, your workroom, and kind of let us see what you've been working on during this time.
Yeah. So I have to say, during the Corona, we call it in Germany, I'm very, very good. Here you see also, for example, everywhere with gemstones. My father was a very big collector about minerals, especially he loved agates. So here you see also stairs are with agates.
And agate has a very deep history with Idar-Oberstein. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it gets found here. The first found of agate around 1425. Let me switch the camera. So about the virus crisis, I'm happy. I'm alone. I work alone in the workshop at the moment. I have a lot of orders from clients. No one cancels the orders. It makes me really, really happy. So I'm doing well. I'm working every day. I had no break. So I will change the camera and show you a small view of my workshop. So here's a different working places. So that's my father. So now we go to the desk. Here you see how it started. That is 2 stones which I get from Bill Larson. Normally there are 4 stones, and Bill wants that I make some ideas what could be done from this gemstone. Very bad at the moment is our local bank is closed, so I cannot go to the safe and pick out the really expensive stones. Here the very beautiful, amazing color aquamarine to carve, but as I could not picking up this afternoon. So in this, I need now to study the stone, look where the cracks are, look where the mistakes are, and then I need to make some ideas what we can do out of the stones.
Now, Patrick, when you get commissioned, like with those pieces from Bill, do your clients tell you what kind of animal they want, or do they give you a piece and say, come back to me with some ideas of what you can do?
It's different. So some customers come and said, oh, I want to have a toad and give me a stone. But some customers come with a stone, and then we decide together what is the best use for the stone. With Bill, he had one of the biggest private collections, so it's a little bit difficult because I cannot do toads again because he has a lot of in his collection. So I need to find some new animals which he still not have, which it makes him interesting, continue collecting. By side, I finish it. I don't know if it's it.
Oh,
it's not yet finished. It goes now to the goldsmith. It's like it will be a brooch from citrine, later with gold and diamonds.
And I don't often see that kind of work from you. I mean, usually we see just a carving, but in that instance with the lion, are you partnered with someone who's doing the goldsmith work?
Yes, I have a friend here in town. He makes a goldsmith. I did it in the last 10 years more often, but mostly I worked for goldsmiths, designers, and mostly they branded under their name.
Okay.
So I worked with a very famous English goldsmith together from London. and he brings things up on his label. But it's okay for me because that is not my main business. This lion, I started because I want to show people in the next Tucson show that what's also possible. Not only big carvings and also small, fine, detailed work.
Well, it's
Patrick, sorry.
Go
So
ahead.
the orange and the green rough stones,
Yes.
what's the rough? What's the material?
That is a morganite,
Mhm.
and that is it's also heliodor. You see, there's a nice pattern. It's from Ukraine.
Yeah, looks like.
So when you look at the stone, we have a question. Do you see the finished product or the geometry shape, and then you just go ahead and finish it? Or how they want to understand a little bit your process when you look at a piece like that?
How to say, when you study the stone, you get the idea. If the client agree with the idea, you start working on this idea, on this animal. But all the time during working, you need to be flexible. If you look here, you see this crack, and when it later come up in an animal, for example, in the arm, it would break. So you need to be flexible to move the arms, the legs around cracks and things like this. So in general, you can be very, very happy if, for example, the toad, which you think is in this heliodor now, comes exact out as you expect. Mostly, it's almost done, but it can be happened that the legs or the hands moved a little bit other directions. Because I need to follow the stone. It's the same here. It's an easy stone because it's a translucent stone. You see how to say the cracks and but for example here it's a toad. We started, and then he gets a hole inside. You see, and then you did not see it in the agate. You can maybe expect it here, but it's closed.
So what
During
happened next?
During work, it opened, and then it's gone. You cannot continue it. It's exact the place where the stomach comes, and there is no body left, no material left to make it. So it happens also that the carvings started and get not finished because anything happens.
I think it's also interesting to note, like you had exhibited a heliodor frog at the Westward Look Show in Tucson this year, and that was a damaged crystal that could never be properly sold as a mineral specimen. And so you carved the frog into it, basically turning a damaged crystal into a piece of art. And you left a lot of the elements of the heliodor around that, which made it really a perfect solution for a crystal that couldn't be a collectible piece.
I have to say, over the last 15 years, I get a lot of mineral collectors, mineral dealers, because I talk to them. Often those people buy minerals direct at the mine, or they buy complete collections, and often some of the minerals are damaged, and they cannot use it as a nice specimens, and they did not know what to do with them. And I say, oh, let's carve them. And so it started that I get often minerals from the mineral community, and I carved them. Here's a very nice sample. It's a big color topaz.
That's from the Ukraine.
Exactly, it's from the Ukraine. Same mine as the heliodors. It's a piece from Crystal Classic. I got that from Ian Bruce. And it was not a nice, how to say, mineral, because it not nice shape, not nice crystal system. So, and I get it. And here also I want to use a brownish color and the blue color. So I decided, because it was, as you see, a very flat piece. I make 2 seahorses. They will get later goldfins, and also a base, which I will carve. Let me make some a little bit wet. Maybe.
Wow.
And I will polish the seahorses. And the corals at the back I need, because the topaz is very fragile, so I need that the coral protected the seahorses. And also you see the mouth of the blue seahorses gets protected on the body from the brownish one. The brownish one gets protected to coral.
How many
Otherwise-
hours? Sorry.
No,
How many
go on.
hours would it take you to carve one piece like that from beginning to end?
I expect around between 120 and 160 hours.
So on a piece like that, you could do what, maybe 10 or 11 a year? Maybe not even that many, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It depends how big the carvings is. So for example, the 2 pieces of bill, they are smaller. I can do it more quicker. So I can maybe produce 20 or even 25. But bigger carvings, I have here a very nice sample. It's a very unusual animal. It's called cobalt maki or tarsia. It's a kind of ape. And look at this nice brown color.
That's beautiful.
And here see very
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
Here it's a rough preformed. You see it's very rough cutted. And here I already start with softer tools, and I make that it's a little bit broken. And here I can show you. Let me see this one, how it looks like finish. So.
Yeah.
That's very cute. You know, it's like, oh, take me.
And here you see very nice that we do almost every kind of animals. So there's nothing what you cannot carve. Here, sometimes I talk to Brian, and sometimes I said, you know, when you work on so complicated pieces, you need a little bit fun piece. This is a small bee-colored morganite frog. I just started when I need to relax.
Yeah.
So sometimes with the bigger carvings, you had some problems, which you need to think about how you can do it, and to think, you get not an answer. So I put it by side, make anything, small, funny, and then the idea comes for the big carvings again. Well,
and that piece is going to debut at the Westward Look Show in Tucson next year, I believe, correct?
The idea was, yes, that I want to show some smaller carvings as a Westward Look Show. But my problem is that often happens that people see or visit me and already bought it before it comes to the show.
Good problem to have, Patrick.
Yeah, but problem is I cannot show a lot.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting because there's a perception that it's very exclusive and no one else can come in and commission new pieces from you. But I think you've shown us a lot of good examples of different people who can commission things directly from you. And in addition to other pieces that you're just doing on your own that can be made available to the general public.
I have to say my father had, in his lifetime, the problem there was a dealer in America. He always says, get Dreher works only exclusive for him. Nobody else is allowed to go direct to the Drehers, buy direct for them. This, was a very big bullshit. My father never signed a contract.
Hey,
with
this is a
dealer.
family show, Patrick. Watch the language.
Okay, sorry. My English is not so good, so I know that's the right words. Yeah, And also people like Bill Larson believes this guy. Bill told me that he want to come 25 years earlier to collect our works. But this guy always told him it's not possible to go direct. And his Will's son, he was the first to decide, oh, there's now a new generation. Let me send him an email. Let's try to get in contact. And till this time, I said, yes, for sure, let's meet. And I think the first meeting was at St. Marie show or Munich show. And still, this time, he is a very good collector from our pieces.
Right.
And again, I'm not limited to one client. I work with different clients. And also, if new clients want to come, they are welcome. They can come to Idar-Oberstein. We can meet on a fair. We can talk, look what is possible. The only thing what I don't have a big stock of saleable carvings.
Right.
Because my production is limited and I work alone. And yeah. And for orders, how to say, it needs a little bit time.
Right.
So people cannot expect that they order a big carving and get it in a month.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, Patrick, you had touched on this earlier. Back when your ancestors, especially, were working for Faberge, they would carve it, send it back to Faberge, and he would sell it under his own brand. Starting with your father, you guys started signing your work. Maybe you can tell a little history about why that started and who was the lovely gentleman who first suggested that to you.
Come on, Brian, you know already the stories.
I know it, but maybe everyone else doesn't.
So, yeah, how to say, before 1980, most people,
Oops.
wait.
That's how he spells his name. You can see it's only one P in Patrick.
No, I'm here. So before 1980, often carvings get not sold, signed from the artist. And because the jewelry stores, the dealers don't want it. And my father was a guy who said, I want to sign my works. And he got the advice from Dave Wilber. Dave was a very, very early collector of our carvings. And he said to my father, you need to sign your works. You need to build up your name as artist. And also he was a guy who recommends that we produce special boxes for our carvings. So Dave was really give my father good advices, which we still use.
Yeah. And so if you look at any more recent Dreher carving, you'll find either your father's signature or now your signature in every single piece.
Yeah,
and
I started immediately in apprenticeship time to sign my pieces. All pieces are signed, which I did. Sometimes in the past, I make teamwork with my father. I make the rough work, he makes the fine work. I later make the finishing. And then they get signed under my father's name because it was his workshop. And that was normal.
Patrick, people is interested to see the different tools that you use and the carving techniques. Someone also asked if you have, if you make your own cutting tools. Can you talk more about that?
Yes. First, that is our main machine. We call it the Spindel. It's a fixed machine. You mount different bits, different diamond bits on it. Here you see very rough tools. All of them are cinder tools. We produce not our own tools because we are very lucky that we have companies here in town who produce diamond tools for our industry. So we can go and order side direct. Also the Spindel gets produced here in Idar-Oberstein. And if you wait, so for example, this is a carving machine from around 1870. And when you compare, it's almost the same.
Not that different, yeah.
Yeah, but for sure, updated, but from the from the technique, still the same.
And I think that's an important thing to point out, that when you're doing the large carvings like that, it's not you working the tool around the material. It's you having to hold and move the material.
Exactly. But also with this, let me show you with the tarsia. You see, I'm also limited. You see, there's not a lot of space. So I'm limited also in the size of the carvings which we can do.
So a life-size carving of myself is not possible.
No.
Can you show us something? Maybe can you carve something in front of us? Is that
Yes, but
ask?
yes. Yeah, sure, it's possible, but I need to ask my mom if she can hold the phone in this.
Okay, so
give
maybe
me-
that would be the good time to launch the poll for us with the questions to know you in the meantime. That's perfect time.
Okay, give me 2 minutes. I'm back.
And then in the meantime, maybe we can cut back to my camera and I'll run that video again. So now that people have seen what it takes to get the work done, they can appreciate the finished pieces.
For everyone that wants to know more about Patrick Dreher, the pool is, we have few questions in there if you want to have some fun and answer the questions. Thank you.
And remember, we have wonderful prizes. We're big on prizes. Now look at that. You know, Patrick was talking about these pieces basically making you reach out and touch that. You want to touch these things. Absolutely. And I love that light play.
Also, as a side story, the museum in Idar-Oberstein is incredible. I have never seen so many beautiful gems and carvings and intaglio together. So if you ever had the opportunity to stop by Idar-Oberstein, as a village in itself, is amazing.
And that museum has more than just carvings. I mean, so that people understand, it's not just Dreher carvings in that museum. And I think actually Patrick is a co-curator or consultant for the museum, but it is a museum that shows all the different types of work coming out of Idar-Oberstein, and it shows a great history of the area too. So it's definitely, it's a must-stop destination on your list if you ever happen to go to Idar-Oberstein. And these first two are pieces that we have seen. Those were the ones that were on the display. That's the colored agate.
Weißt du, du stellst dich so dahin. Ich stell dich dort in, dass du dann so
Sounds like
hältst.
Patrick's back.
I'm back.
He's back. Okay, let's cut back to
back.
Patrick. There we go.
So, es ist so, wenn du das so hältst. Kannst du das machen? So, right. Okay. Good. So as you see, that is our carving machine. We use for cooling the stone and also keep the dust away. A water spray, only water. And you see, you move. No,
Okay. The reason we have muffled audio is probably because Patrick's camera is compensating for all the noise that the spindle's making. But you can see him moving the material under the spindle. That nozzle at the very top is spraying water on it, so that all the dust doesn't get into the air and get into Patrick's lungs, which could be extremely, extremely dangerous. And so it's just hours and hours of you sitting there carving away. You can imagine with the bigger pieces how heavy it is like that. And there we go. That's how it's done.
Give me the phone. Let's see. You see it? Oh yeah, there it comes. It was a very, very fast carving.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Patrick, that might be our new logo.
And
The
you
most
see here,
expensive logo in the
you
history.
have hundreds of different bits for each different use. Sometimes I use also microscope for very fine detailed work. So one I want to mention here about this cobalt marquee. This collector is also one of our oldest collector from our family. He collected more than 40 years. His name is Mr. Myers from England, and he had a very exclusive collection. Also, people like Bill Larson, they have now more than 50 pieces in collection. Hello?
Yeah, no. We're holding our breaths, watching the next thing that you're going to show us. But I think one nice thing and might be an important thing to point out right now is people really can't get enough of Dreher carvings, and there is an exhibit that is coming up, and it will be at the Houston Museum, where it will be the largest collection of Dreher pieces ever assembled. And I believe it was scheduled to go on right now, but with COVID-19 or the coronavirus, as they say in Europe, that whole thing has been kind of put off. They're there in Houston, and they will go on exhibit very shortly. Definitely worth a trip down there. Patrick, how many pieces are going to be in that exhibit?
Wait, let me switch the camera. The youth museums themselves, they bought a collection around 80 pieces. As you told before, I found this collection of the family Stern in England. They have around 40 pieces, so 120 pieces. Mr. Myers take part in this collection, and also my mom with her private collection take part in the collection. So we expect to have minimum around 180 to 200 pieces.
Patrick, can we say hi to your mom?
Sure.
She's at the back.
Hello. She's on the show. Hi, Mom.
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah. And interesting, that this collection is really this collection of my grandfather was lost. Nobody knows about this collection, even my parents not. And it was big luck that I found this lady during the GMA conference in London, I think 3 years ago. And she's now 94 years old and still keeps the collection.
Tell the story quickly about how she introduced herself to you.
I was talking about one piece of my grandfather, which we have in our collection. And she hooked up with a finger and said, "Oh, I have 3 Datsun in my collection." And I said, "Pardon? I did not understand." She said, "Oh, I have around 40 pieces." And I did not believe her. And later in the break, I talked to her, and half a year later, I visited her with my mom together. And she told us the stories that her husband, Mr. Stern, was born in Idar-Oberstein. And when you listen what I told you about Faberge, you heard the name. So his family, his relatives was this dealers, which was between my family and Faberge. And Mrs. Stern told me,
contractor, so to speak.
What?
He was the general contractor. He connected your family with Faberge.
Yeah. Exactly. And his family was Jewish people. So before World War II, they immigrated to England. And after World War, around 1948, he worked for De Beers and was dealing with diamonds. And still in Idar-Oberstein was almost the best cutters. And normally they was not allowed to work. So he smuggled the diamonds to Idar-Oberstein, cut it here, and exported them to England. And every year when he come to Idar-Oberstein, visit my grandfather, sorry, he bought a present for his wife. And that was a small animal carving.
Nice.
And as Mrs. Stern told me, the last she get around 90-80.
Incredible. So those are going to be added to the Houston collection when it goes on exhibit, where because of the situation, we're not quite sure when the museum's going to open. But for that exhibit, there's also going to be a new book that's going to be coming out. And also Joel Barch, who's the president of Houston Museum, Blue Cat Productions is working with him. So hopefully we're going to get a film about that out. Because I actually got a chance to go to England and sit down and interview Mrs. Stern about her kind of past and how that got all involved with the Dreher family.
Brian,
So,
do you want to show the current book?
Yeah, actually, why don't we go ahead and do that? And then we're going to go into the poll. So this book right here, this came out, I think, 2 or 3 years ago at the Munich show, correct, Patrick? Was it 3 years maybe?
3 years ago, and it came to the Frankfurt Book Fair first.
Okay. And then there was a big launch at the Munich show. And this is an incredible book. There's a little there's a little homage written here by Raquel herself. And this book is filled with incredible photographs of all kinds of work that Patrick's done. This is out of print right now, but there are some copies available on Amazon. Lithography, our friend Gloria Stabler, she lists this on her bookstore, but they are out of stock, and they're just not available. So if you can find it on Amazon, that's great. Patrick also has a few of these left over. So if you want to order them directly from Patrick, you could do that just by sending him an email, and he will sign the book and then ship that to you. So this book is a wonderful book. There will be a new book probably within the next year or so. It's getting close to being finished. But this is going to be a gift that Patrick is going to donate one of these copies to the people at the end of the poll. So hang around for that. We're going to do our poll very soon. How are we on time? Oh, we're getting about 1 hour. So why don't we go ahead and we'll start our poll. Do we have all our answers in?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so let's switch back to Patrick's camera because people don't need to see me. They would rather look at Patrick.
Okay, Brian.
Okay, Patrick, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, you know how this works. I'm going to ask you 10 questions without thinking. Immediately, you have to give your response. The audience has already responded, so we're going to see how well the audience can guess what you're going to answer. So, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. First question, Porsche or Audi?
Audi.
Of course, we knew that. Hugo Boss or Armani?
Hugo Boss.
Of course. Coke Zero or Pepsi Light?
Coke Zero.
Scuba diving or skydiving?
Scuba diving.
Come on, make these look hard. Are you a little bit country or a little bit rock and roll? Music taste.
Techno.
You got to pick one. Country or rock and roll?
Then country.
Country. Okay. Who was the better James Bond, Sean Connery or Roger Moore?
Sean Connery.
Connery. Mac or PC?
PC.
PC. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Wars. Okay, food preference. Surf or turf, meaning seafood or land food?
Seafood.
Seafood. And final question of the day. Cabin in the mountains or cottage on the beach?
Cottage on the beach.
Cottage on the beach. We have our answers. Okay, Raquel or Eloise, let's go back and let's see how our audience did. Porsche or Audi?
Well, the audience didn't do great, except for the first one, Audi, indeed, 59%.
Excellent. Okay, number 2, Hugo Boss or Armani?
Armani.
Armani. Oh. Hang on, let me just close this. Okay, so we got that one wrong. Coke Zero or Pepsi Light?
Coke Zero, got it right.
Good. Scuba diving or skydiving?
Good one, scuba diving.
Mm-hmm. A little bit country or a little bit rock and roll?
People answered rock and roll.
Well, honestly, I would have answered the same way, so I was surprised by Patrick's country answer. Sean Connery or Roger Moore?
Was that really a question? Obviously, it was Sean Connery. Like, of course, come on.
But most people don't know that for the last 5 years, Patrick has dressed up as Sean Connery for Halloween. So,
Okay.
Mac or PC?
Mac. So wrong.
Yeah, I would have guessed Mac as well. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars. Right.
Wars. Surf or turf?
Turf. Wrong.
Turf. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
And cabin in the mountains or cottage on the beach?
Cabin in the mountains.
What? Or no, that's unheard of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's 5 out of 10. I think that's the worst any audience has ever done. At least people know Patrick a little bit better. Let's talk about this book for a second now. Let's cut back to my camera. Okay, even though technically our audience didn't make it, we're still going to give away this prize. And this is the book right here. And this is a gift from Patrick. So this is going to go to the first person who can answer the following question correctly. This is going to be live. So you have to answer the question correctly and type your answer in the chat box. Okay? So here we go. Name the museum in which a carved hippo by Dreher is currently on exhibit. First person with the correct answer is going to win a copy of this book signed by Patrick Dreher. So, Raquel.
Wow, Peter Mago, he was on the spot.
Nice, Peter.
Congratulations.
Let me see. I think, gosh, it went too quickly. Now I can't.
Wow, that's a lot of people trying to answer. Awesome.
That's great. Thank you, everyone, for being.
With the correct answers?
Sorry?
Are all the people coming in with the correct answer?
I think people were between Houston and Harvard. I think because we have been talking about it.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sorry. I think the first person was Anne.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yes.
Anne Fraser.
Yes, Anya Kerens. I see,
Anne
right?
Fraser was the first person. Yeah. Sorry, Peter.
Sorry, Peter. Okay. Hey, Patrick, I know we're a little bit over the 1 hour mark, but hoping you might be able to do one more thing. Can we go into the storeroom and take a look at some of the your inventory of raw material?
Sure, we can do it.
Meanwhile, Eloise and Raquel, are there any questions from the Q&A that we can ask Patrick right now?
Yeah.
But as I told, I don't know if.
Yeah, we're stuck.
We are losing him already. Patrick, don't worry. We are losing you already.
Go back to the
Wi-Fi work to there.
And this is what happens when Patrick doesn't have his Coke Zero. Okay, hey, now we got. And those books you saw in the background, those were some of the reference books that Patrick uses. Okay, so any of the.
Here you see, for example, also a part of the photos we have. So we have each box for animals.
Oh, and inside those boxes are photos and information on the different animals, correct?
Exactly, hundreds of photos.
Terrific.
I think we have answered most of the question, Brian, and we are already 2:05. So I would say thank you so much to Patrick. That was incredible.
Thank you.
Patrick, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your life's work and passion. And we really appreciate that. And we look forward to seeing you again at the next mineral show, whenever that may be.
Yeah, it was big fun. Thank you a lot.
All right.
Thanks, everyone, for joining.
And again, tune in next week. We are going to have Dr. John Rakovin from the Miami University as our guest. And he is a mineral researcher. That's the broad category that we're giving to him. And he's going to do a lot of cool stuff. Identification of minerals and talk about some of the research that he's done. And he's going to share some of the great pieces specimens that he's collected over the years. So that's going to be it for this edition of Mineral Talks Live. I think tomorrow we are going to go live with episode 3, which I believe was Peter McGaw. So if you missed that, we're going to be putting that up on YouTube. And that's going to do it for all of us. Have a great day. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank
Good
you.
luck, everybody. Thanks for
Thanks,
Jake, and thanks to Bye.
We're gonna leave the chat open so people will see hanging